Hi, I'm Lord Angeles. My last name is Whitehorse, and I write under the name of Lady Angeles. And I have been a tarot practitioner for 45 years now. Um, During that time, the necessity to advertise has never happened. Some of that is because the work can be considered dangerous, but we have to discuss why. The first thing I want to do is to establish a very important point. And that point is there's no such thing as a beginner's guide to tarot. It's just not possible. Tarot works with 78 cards. The 78 cards do have infinite possibilities regarding what they mean with what. They speak sentences. They speak the entire language of the person who's sitting opposite you and not you. As a reader, as an interpreter, this is not about you. This will never be about you. You can talk for an hour, 2 hours, even 3 hours regarding what you see and how it's interpreted. Oh, but you better be careful. You better be right. And therein lies the dilemma that most people I encounter have, insofar as ultimately they renege on the ability to work with tarot, and tarot will desert them. They'll end up falling back on the easier route of making it easier for people. But the point I'm going to make, and the point that, and it's up to you as to whether you continue with this. But the point I want to make is there's no beginners. Every card that I raise up here, every single one of them has multiple meanings. Every one of those multiple meanings has to be learned. Every meaning for the individual card has to be learned. This is a language, as complex a language as you're ever going to find. And who has the Rosetta Stone for this language? The experience or the experience of those who come back and let you know that however it's happened, and herein lies a huge dilemma that I will get to, however it happens, it's not little, it's not trivial. You've got that person's life in your hands. You've got that person's, they've trusted you. They want to know that, oh, yes, they want to know all the good things. They want to know how sweet life's going to be. They want to know that they're going to be loved. They want to know that they're going to be safe. They want to know that their children are going to be safe. They want to know even when they're going to die, or they want to even know how they're going to die. What are you going to tell them? What piece of nicety are you going to tell them? You will tell them what the cards that they shuffle tell you to tell them. You don't matter. I won't matter. But ultimately, people will think that it's you that's doing this, but what you are is an interpreter. If you have not learned the language of your art and your craft beforehand, if you think that you're going to be able to build a Taj Mahal without the skill of architecture, you're just not. So you might as well give up and just turn this off right now and make me your enemy. Because I'm going to tell you every single one of the meanings of these cards. But you've got to learn some very important things, and you've got to learn to remove your bigotry. You've got to learn to remove your racism. You've got to learn to remove your religion. You've got to learn to remove every ideology that you think is important to you. You've got to learn to learn. That being said, if you're game enough to come on this journey with me, and most haven't, by the way, many have tried because I have been teaching this now for 42 years. It took until I was 60 to be able to give advice, and I'd learned enough about living and failing and fear and trepidation and hope and all of it, despair, courage, death. It took that long from when I was 28 to when I was 60, probably even, and it's still happening. And I still keep my opinions to myself because what can one say in the face of so much that is different to your life? What do you say to a student of English who's living in Shanghai? What do you say when you understand that their entire culture is different? You tell the truth. You say it as you spay it. And spay is a form of seeing, and the word spy comes from that. But you say it because you've learned the language. That being said, we will be starting today with swords. You don't need to know how many cards there are. It's obvious. It's like hollow fish are wet. So you get your pack of tarot, and I use the Rider-Waite tarot that was painted initially by Pamela Coleman Smith, who did die in poverty because her work was never acknowledged. Why I use this particular pack is because I don't have to think about it. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to get tripped up and trapped in the little images that are ever so pretty that somebody has understood and done or created off the top of their head because they can. I appreciate that art. I respect that art. But that's not tarot. That's not this. So when you get a deck like the Rider-Waite that is very, very profoundly deep, by the way, this is very much in the tradition of the Marseille pack. This is very much in the tradition of very, very early packs that have been found. But all of that is irrelevant. All the history, all the trying to make it legitimate. This is not. This is witchery. Because just like I suppose television was initially witchery, just like Edison's light bulb was initially witchery, that's what this is. That which is understood is occult, and the word occult means hidden. Is it going to stay hidden? That's going to depend on you. To be an interpreter of tarot takes courage. I don't deny you that. I don't doubt that for a second. To have people come to your home, to have people sit in absolute privacy with you and trust that you're not going to screw them over, that you're worth coming to see, that you're worth sometimes. People will travel through hours. There are people that will fly and sit with me for an hour. That's their choice. Do they do it because they're desperate? No. People want to know. People have always wanted to know. The Ace of Swords. It's an injection. It's an acupuncture needle. It's a tattoo needle. It's an opinion. It's the track leading up to a bush block. It's the fence around that track. It can be a decision to be made, but everything depends on what's around it. The idea of justice comes from the Ace of Swords because it's the idea of a double-edged sword. Life being a double-edged sword, being both compassion and severity. And yes, of course, all of this is covered by astrology, all of this is covered by numerology, and all of this is covered by Kabbalah, but that's not for today. The Ace of Swords is a piercing, but again, it depends on what it's with. Let's play around with the swords today, with just all the swords today. Let's look at triplets. Most of the work that I do is groups, because you can't get a sentence out of the word and. You can't get a sentence with one word that says dog. A sentence doesn't say I full stop. A sentence is a series of words that is descriptive of something that needs to be communicated with somebody else. These three are really clear. So the energy of these three clear cards that includes the Ace of Swords is very focused on this Three of Swords, isn't it? And the Three of Swords is separation. It doesn't say what from. This is the person in front of you knows that a separation of some description is going to happen. They've decided to be quiet because the Two of Swords is silence. It can be indecision. Bear that in mind, because every time you get these three cards together, they'll mean something different for each of the people that you're sitting with. Does that become confusing? Not on the day. No, never on the day. You'll hum and ha, but you'll get it. It'll come at you from left field, the understanding. The decision's made. The separation will occur because it's on the table and because it's in the map. When do I say it? When is it said? When will you talk about this? When will you recognize or receive the separation or make the separation. Just change it. Put it with the Four of Swords and you've got indecision like you wouldn't believe. You've got, I know my opinion. I know my opinion. I've made my mind up. I have my decision made. I'm not speaking of it. I'll wait. I'll do nothing. I'll sit on it. I'll wait. Put the three together. There's your sentence. So, and of course it matters what direction they come in. And because I'm not Arabic, I do read from left to right. If you are working with the Arabic language, you will work, and even the Hebrew language, you will work from right to left. Be aware of the people that you're dealing with. Does it matter? Of course it matters. But how you read is how you're going to read these cards. So this one is really, really important. This can be one of a couple of things. Do you get palpitations? Does your heart flutter in your chest? Are you slightly worried? Could this be stress? But could this be a heart aneurysm about to happen? You don't need indecision with this, do you? You wait until such time as you need to know and you need to take this further. Okay, let's go. Just get a really good idea of the Ace of Swords and with what it falls. Look at that, those three together. Okay, this is conflict. This is conflict. This may very well be the map of a person who is a mercenary, because the trip over water is very definite. There's also struggle in association with somebody who could be learning the navigational skills on a ship. Does the Six of Swords always mean over water, on water, in water, or by water? No, it's very often a time sequence. 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months, or 6 years. Have you got to take that into consideration? Yes, because every other map that you've got on the table for that particular, where this will show, will tell you what exactly is going on. We've got a story. That person will give you the whole story of what's going to happen for them. In this particular instance, there could be an argument or conflict, because the Five of Swords is conflict. Whichever way you go about it, it can't be anything else. The Five of Swords is conflict. Does the Ace of Swords get in the way there? Oh, very often. Why does it get in the way? Because you've made up your mind. And because perhaps, just perhaps, you're trapped in the ideologies of duality, like right and wrong. And one thing I'm very certain is that everybody who thinks they're right is right, even if they're your opponent. Therefore, conflict can't be resolved. Discussion can resolve situations of conflict, but conflict itself can't be resolved. Not without an inevitable outcome that's not usually pleasant. Okay, here's an interesting one. But whichever way I put it, Ace of Swords, let's play around with these two for a minute. We still have the conflict, but we have this little person who's come in now. And this little person who's come in now is very, very important, because what they've done is they've snuck into the enemy's camp in the middle of the night and they've removed their weapons from them. This can occur in legal matters. This can occur when someone is researching forensic information, when people are looking at a murder, someone is finding out surreptitiously information that they need. When you have that with these three cards, for example, you've got someone attempting to sneak out of an argument or a conflict because they've already made up their mind up. They could have even triggered it. That happens in Machiavellian thought. And if anybody doesn't understand what Machiavellian thought is, it basically maintains or continues the understanding of divide et imperium, or divide them to conquer them. And this little fucker here is the whisperer. So this whisperer is sneaking from one camp to the other, giving information, passing messages backwards and forwards. Are they always true? Of course not. Are they sometimes true? Who knows? This person is the sneak. This person is the one who, for example, is spying on you through Facebook. This is the person who's sneaking into your vehicle. This is your ex-partner sneaking in the middle of the night and putting a camera on the bottom of your car so that they can track you through a GPS system. This can be the result or the outcome, part 1, 2, and 3 of a conflict. They start getting nasty. They start getting strategic. This is also, I've seen this with theft a lot. I've seen it also when a person is being stalked a lot. Okay. And that, my dear, is an argument that you cannot win, but that you're trapped in. And I've seen this with people who tell me about the conflict they've got with their parents, that they've had with an argument they've had with a sibling, they've had with a partner for sometimes a lifetime. And nothing changes because no one will drop the facade of the personality that they've adopted to be able to be considered an authority or as important as could possibly be in any discussion whatsoever. Let me pop that one with you. Let me pop the Six of Swords with that. This is someone who is feeling fear. And now fear is a different story. We can talk about that, but I'll use it in the common vernacular today. And the common vernacular of fear is anxiety or worry or trepidation or a sense of dread. It's not fear, because fear is an adrenaline, of course, that's a hormone that's released that allows you to escape a situation. This person is trapped. Again, there's a sense of trap. This so often happens when you've got military personnel coming back from a seeming war, and they have PTSD. And there can be a lot of reasons behind that. You'll find people that are raped by their own side. You'll have people who've done dreadful, dreadful things to other people, and in situations where they've taken orders that they should not ethically have ever listened to. This is a person also on a different level who's had surgery and who's recovering over a 6-day period of time. Okay, let's get really serious here with our swords. Ace of Swords and Ten of Swords is violence. All kinds of violence. That's when it ends up in a really serious fight. A really, really terrible fight. So there's your Ace of Swords. Any one of those variations that could happen, okay, with these three that you get seasick. There's going to be surgery for a heart condition, and then there's the rest period after. Okay. It depends on where it is. There's a separation that's already occurred, and there's a waiting period where you've got to get your back together and you've got to sort it through and you've got to work it out and you've got to understand, is there a reason for blame? Do I have an action to take? Ace of Swords is the action. It's the decision. Sorry, not the action. It's the decision prior to the action. We can go again with open heart surgery. We haven't looked at the people. I'm just going to bring you one other today, even though we're dealing with the Ace of Swords. Okay, I'm going to put these together. Some things won't work. Some things will look like they won't work. Okay, we'll pop that up. So the kings and queens are just people. I find it really annoying knowing the word king. It's a Saxon word, by the way, and it means chieftain. And the word queen is a Saxon word again. It means the wife of the chieftain. So I tend to go people, and I tend to also throw away gender because we're living in an age when people are out of the closet and they're not hiding anymore, and they are who they are. And so very often, of course, the person of swords will be a Gemini or an Aquarius or a Libran person or a child of that sign. Well, they can be a fabulous queen, by the way, working for RuPaul. All kinds of situations in this instance. What does the Knight of Swords mean? Ultimately, it means speed. So are we talking about methamphetamine and somebody who shoots it up using a needle? Are we talking about someone who rides fast motorcycles and is very good at what they do? They're very good at what they do with the Ace of Swords because they're in balance. Yes, there's so many different reasons. This can also be a person who's driving too fast, but you're going to see other cards that are going to back that up like you wouldn't believe, like this one here. The Justice card, there's where you get caught for having driven too fast. This is one of the wheels. There's your wheels right there. This is why the language is most important. So today, just for today, this is another one. And it doesn't really matter whether you've got the King of Swords or the Queen of Swords in your it'll end up mattering. because it's a person who could be going through the process of gender reassignment. Got it? Can you see all this? And then we have the person, of course, we're still sticking with the Ace of Swords, okay, who knows an outcome, because the pages quite often be the beginnings of a process. With this one, these three, for example, the decision's already made, Ace of Swords. There's going to be grief over it. You can't get away from the grief over the whole thing. There may also be, this can also be a person who has, for example, some form of vaccination, whether that be for diphtheria or Hep C or any decision whatsoever, or the polio vaccinations or the vaccinations that babies are given at birth. I won't go into the list because it's just too beyond me. But this is the person or the young person in this instance, and pages can very often be people up to the age of 28. You'll get it by the cards around them, by the way. Or it can be the memory of a person, because you might get the King of Swords or the Queen of Swords in this particular instance. And you'll know that that King of Swords was the child. So that was the child. This is a child who won't sleep properly at night. What do you do? Child has a will of iron. Okay. So you can see it's necessary today. Put the Ace of Swords as the first card in your list, in your grimoire, please, and be prepared to build on it from there. What is important to understand as a result of doing this work with me, if you choose to continue, is that every single card is going to have a multiple necessary. We're just looking at the swords today. With eight of wands, which is land, and you've got a subdivision. But the Ace of Swords could just as easily be the fence line around a property so the dogs don't get out. But if that's the story, then you'll see the fact that the dogs are doing a Houdini anyway. That's all I've got to say about the Ace of Swords today. I will mention that the card that is sitting as the example on the Patreon site for this is Devil, Death and Tower, and you'll see the Hangman before that, and you'll see the Temperance card above it. And then I also took a second photograph, because this was quite extraordinary for the person concerned with the second photograph, because I was reading for them online, and the second photograph saved their life. The first photograph of the Devil, Death and Tower, which is the dark night of the soul, with the Hangman beside it, showed how incredibly impossible it was. And the Temperance card above it was very much got to be in your mind, got to be in your mind, got to be in your mind with this. And I said, it's going to be terrible. What's going to happen to you this was in the first map, the first thing that they laid out on the table. And I said, it'll be terrible. And you'll wonder if you're going to live or die. You won't know if you're going to live or die. It is a process of initiation that you're going to be going through that is so hard. But then look at the second map. Look at how you've made it. So after the entire reading, and it was quite extraordinary, I heard nothing for several days. But within days, or within the first week, the person made contact. Their impacted wisdom teeth had become infected. They had to be put into hospital to have a general anesthetic and have the wisdom teeth removed so the infection didn't kill them. While they were in the recovery room, they checked their text messages, and there was a text message from a partner of theirs that had been their partner on and off for the last 3 years, who busted up with them by text message. My client loved that person. The decision to live or die, when they went home, was forged by the answer they gave me in the second map, which was how well they would survive this. Now, I did not tell them that off the top of my head. This was in these. This was with these. That's what these do. And she survived it. But it took her to a place of so-called darkness into a place of self-regret and intense trauma. And she did consider within the first few days of suiciding. The pain was excruciating. When your clients come back and tell you the events have happened, you can go a little for a moment, but then you've got to take on the full impact emotionally, internally of the responsibility of that. Can reading tarot make you sick? Yes. Will we cover that as we go? Yes. I'll finish off by saying there is no such thing as a beginner in tarot.